Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into something really special. Traditional childhood games from Lopnur.
Hmm.
You've shared some fascinating excerpts from a source titled Traditional Childhood Games of Lopnur. And our mission is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the insights about these games for you.
Yeah, and the source does such a good job, doesn't it? Setting the scene right away.
Yeah.
You really picture this place where childhood wasn't, screens or plastic toys,
Right.
but it was shaped by nature, by imagination. It paints a picture of a very different kind of upbringing.
Totally different. And what's clear from the get-go is the source's perspective.
No.
These weren't just ways to kill time. They were
Yeah.
something more profound. So we're going to explore what that something more actually was, looking at the specific games the source describes and, understanding what made them tick.
Sounds great. Where should we start?
Okay, let's jump right into the first game mentioned, Tardishmak, which translates as the tug of reeds. Now, this wasn't your typical, heavy rope tug of war, was it?
No, far from it. The game uses this unique material, a special part of the Lopner reed itself, which is actually also called Tardishmak.
Oh, okay.
Kids would find these pieces, and they have this natural point where they're likely to snap. So you just hook two pieces together,
Simple.
and you pull until one breaks. That's it.
Simple, yeah, but the stakes were kind of interesting. The loser takes on the small chore, maybe like rounding up sheep or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what the source really emphasizes is how this game worked beyond just being a strength test.
Right.
It's fascinating how that simple act of snapping a reed, assigning a tiny chore, it actually became a way to resolve minor disputes between kids.
Huh.
It took just enough effort to feel like a real contest,
Yeah.
And it built practical arm strength, which you'd need in that environment.
Sure.
And, well, by having clear winners and losers based purely on a physical outcome, it just inherently taught a sense of fairness.
It's baked right into the game mechanic. And the source notes something quite poignant about its decline. As the pastures disappeared, so did the reeds. And so
Oh.
the game itself just vanished.
It's a really powerful illustration, isn't it? How deeply play can be woven into and even reliant on the actual physical landscape.
Oh, it really is. Makes you wonder, what simple materials from your environment could you turn into a game that teaches something?
Good question.
Definitely something to ponder. Okay, moving on, the source describes choka, the stick game.
Choka. Yeah, this used trimmed willow branches, cut into sticks about, say, 15 centimeters long, and the source details two main versions, which actually highlight pretty different skills.
Okay, so one involved throwing sticks up in the air and catching them. Sounds like it
Yeah.
needed quick reflexes, maybe some dexterity.
Right, yeah, a game of precision and hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
But the other version, that one involved scattering the sticks on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had to carefully pick one stick up without disturbing any of the other.
Oh, like pickup sticks.
Kinda, yeah. And this version, as the source explains, demanded incredible focus, really calm hands, and a lot of patience. Skills that are, valuable anywhere.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting. I thought the source points out these simple sticks had another purpose.
Get this, yeah.
They weren't just playthings, they literally doubled as counting tools in math class.
That connection is just
Yeah.
striking. It shows how the same humble objects could bridge that gap between informal play and, formal learning,
Right.
fostering skills in one context that
Yeah.
were directly useful in another.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How simple tools, like those choka sticks, could teach fine motor skills, mental focus, and basic arithmetic all at once.
Exactly.
Okay, next up, the source takes us to sabur. That's the sandbag dodge. The name apparently comes from the Chinese word shabao.
Yes, and the sandbag itself was pretty ingeniously made. Just a hand-sewn clock bag stuffed with, husks or sawdust, whatever was around.
Resourceful.
Totally. And the gameplay sounds quite energetic. You've got one team throwing the bag
Right.
at kids running through the middle,
Yeah.
and they're throwing from two sides.
Yeah, if you get hit, you're out.
Yeah.
Standard dodgeball kind of rule. But there's a twist, right? Add some strategy.
Yeah, if a teammate catches the thrown bag cleanly,
Uh-huh.
then a player who's already out gets to come back into the game.
Oh, neat. So it pays to be alert even when you're on the throwing team.
Definitely. The source describes it as fast, furious, lots of shouting. You could just picture it.
Yeah, sounds like chaos, but controlled chaos, maybe?
Exactly. The source really emphasizes the skills this game tested. Teamwork, obviously, because you need those teammates catching the bag for you.
Mm-hmm.
Agility, of course, to dodge the throws. And this fundamental, almost like primal survival reaction.
That survival instinct element in a game like this, It suggests play can teach us how to react quickly, decisively, under pressure, even if it's just dodging a sawdust bag.
Absolutely. It's a different kind of lesson than the, calm precision of Choka, but equally valuable in its own context.
Okay, so from the dust and shouting of Saibur, we head to the water. Su Oyuni, water games.
Naturally played on hot summer days down in the river. The source mentions various things, diving games like who makes the smallest splash,
Fun.
who can swim the farthest underwater, who can do backflips, fun individual challenges.
But the really compelling part, I think, that the source reveals is the community aspect.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Older kids weren't just playing alongside the younger ones, they were actively teaching them to swim, watching over them, making sure everyone was safe.
And this highlights how the play itself was like community in motion. It wasn't just about mastering a skill for yourself.
No.
It was about collective safety and the transfer of knowledge and even courage across the different age groups.
So these water games, they were practical swimming lessons and community bonding all rolled into one. It makes you ask, how does play in your own life build community or help transfer skills?
Good point.
Okay, let's move back to crafting things. The source describes paper slam, the battle of popping folds. Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, this one used scrap paper, just whatever paper was available, folded into specific triangle or pentagon shapes. Kids would make their own game pieces.
Okay.
So there was a piece called a pack, which was sort of the target piece, laid flat. And then there was a heavier folded paper piece called the tuz. That was the slammer.
The slammer. Okay, so how did it work?
You'd take your tuz and slam it down hard near an opponent's pack.
Right.
And if the force, or maybe the air pressure from your slam, managed to flip their piece over,
You win it.
you win it. You collect their piece.
The source makes a comparison here, doesn't it, to something modern?
Yeah, a great comparison. It says it was like trading cards today. Pogs, maybe, for some
Oh,
listeners.
right, but with a crucial difference.
Exactly. You had to make your pieces. You couldn't just buy them.
That act of creation adds so much. The source points out it taught practical lessons, like design, figuring out the best folds to make your pieces flip well or resist flipping,
And wrist strengths from the slamming motion.
and maybe most importantly, a real sense of pride in something you actually crafted with your own hands.
It really makes you think, what does that element of creating something yourself add to the experience of a game? It grounds the competition in, like, skill and craftsmanship, not just luck or having the coolest store-bought thing.
Good point. Okay, next is Killich. The sword game? Sounds dramatic, but it seems like it had surprising layers.
It did. It used soft reed stocks as pretend swords, so not dangerous.
Okay, good.
And it involved two teams, usually designated as warriors and enemies. They'd mimic scenes from movies they'd seen or legends they knew. It was imaginative, physical play.
But what makes this game really stand out, according to the source, are the rules. It wasn't just kids whacking each other randomly.
No, definitely not. Specific rules were enforced, like no hitting faces, ever. Yeah. You had to aim for the belly or the sides. Accepted targets.
And those rules are key, aren't they?
Absolutely. The source explains that these mock battles were actually powerful teachers. They required bravery. Sure, you had to run in there, but by enforcing specific targets and areas not to hit, they taught fairness and maybe most profoundly, ethics. Understand what was right and wrong, even in the heat of a pretend fight.
Wow. It's fascinating how even simulated conflict, when it has the right structure, could instill real-world values like ethical behavior, restraint.
In the middle of having fun.
Exactly. Okay, finally, the source brings us to Kwamushkima, the reed boat race.
Yeah, this sounds lovely. It was seasonal, played when the spring floods filled up the irrigation ditches.
Ah, okay. Making use of the environment again.
Totally. Children would build little boats from reeds,
Yeah.
just using whatever skills and creativity they had, making these little crafts.
Yeah.
Then they'd place their little reed boats in the flowing water and run alongside the ditch, cheering them on.
That's charming. How was the winner decided?
Simply the boat that floated the farthest without
Yeah.
getting stuck or, sinking.
The source describes this game beautifully, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Simple, joyful.
And endlessly creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just shows how powerful creativity can be when you apply it to the most basic materials you have around you.
It really makes you wonder, what does that sort of creativity, working with simple, found materials, what does that unlock in a child's imagination?
A lot, I think.
So looking across all these games you've shared from the source, Tardishmak, Choka, Sabur, Suyuni, Paper Slam, Kilich, Kwamushkima, what are the common threads? What ties them together?
Well, if we connect this back to the bigger picture the source presents, the core message really starts to crystallize, I
Hmm.
think. That these weren't just games, not just ways to fill time. They were lessons, deeply embedded in the activity, in the interaction.
Right. They required and they taught skills, things like cooperation, courage, patience, invention.
Thinking things through, yeah. And fundamentally, they build connections. Through this play, children connected to each other.
Hmm.
They connected to the natural world around them, the reeds, the water, the sticks, and arguably, they connected more deeply to themselves as, capable, creative social beings.
Thinking about that connection, it really makes you reflect on the skills and relationships that play fostered in your own childhood, maybe in very different ways, but perhaps with a similar underlying impact.
Absolutely. And the source's overarching theme really is how integral this kind of play was to shaping identity in Lopner.
Yeah. And it leaves us with a really powerful thought, doesn't it? One that the source states so simply but so profoundly. In Lopner, they didn't play to pass time. They
Mm.
played to become who they are.
That's such a great line. It just hits home.
It really does. And it raises an important question for all of us, for you listening.
Mhm.
Consider how play, in whatever form it takes for you, maybe it's sports, creative hobbies, video games, board games, just messing around, how does it shape who you are or who you've become?
Yeah, what are the deep lessons hidden in the ways we choose to spend our time, even in activities that seem, on the surface, utterly simple?
A lot to think about there.